All right, I haven't seen a whole lot people putting these on, so I thought I'd do a video with showing you how I do it. These come like this, they don't come in the full piece. I've had that question asked. I think I got this at carparts.com, I think. Anyway, so yeah, I've prepped all this. You can see I grind back just the area. So I scuffed the hole, I scuffed this EDP. Okay, this is electrically deposited primer. I scuff that and leave it, and then knock away where I'm going to weld through, or it's going to butt up against, and then put my weld through primer. That way I've got an extra layer of coating. Now make sure there's no rust under there, because sometimes these panels, somebody will touch it with their bare hands before they actually put the primer on it, and it'll start, you'll have oil and start rusting, lifting, whatever. Anyway, so you can tell though, you can look at it and see. So then I've got this prepped up here. Same deal, just the spots. Just shot just a minimal amount of weld through. You can see all this is done. I don't know if I showed this before, but I rebuilt all of this stuff. All of this is made. Went ahead and seam sealed in here, seam sealed underneath. Went back in here and shot a epoxy on the back of the welds and everything. That way, no rust. I mean, that's the goal, no rust. Each one of these spots, same deal, just grind back where you need. So what I did was I popped the holes in that, stuck it up here, took me a pin and a marker basically, and marked each spot, ground just that area back, and then when I butt it up there, it'll just weld that area. Be sure you seam seal any gaps or anything that you're not going to be able to get to from the inside or underside or whatever. So I just did that. And so yeah, it's ready. Prep the front side. So what I'll do is I'll take that piece, I'll put it up here, fit it up, get it clamped in, and then what I'm going to do is what they call a cut and butt, which is basically just button that panel up against here, and then I'll cut both panels right down the center of this. I found that to be the best way for me, because you've got a break here that's strong, and then down here you'll have another break that's strong, versus if you seam this right down here, you're going to get more warpage because of the heat. So this is a smaller area, but you got to be pretty precise doing it this way. You don't want to screw that up and have a big gap, because then you're going to have a mess. So it needs to be a fairly tight gap. Not too tight, but basically the width of a air saw blade, which is what I use to cut that, which is what I use to cut this back to here. So that's it for that. I'm going to set this panel on, get it clamped down, and then we'll go from there. So here's another tip from me to you guys. These little cap plugs here run 3 holes. They don't do this. I don't think they do, as far as I know from the factory. So I put 3 of these in here. That way you can get in there, because these are known these areas rust out bad, obviously, to where they're gone completely. But you can come back in there and pop these little plugs in like that. That'll keep the crap from getting in there, but then you can also pop it back out, take you some compressed air, shove it up in there and blow all that out. Also, I will not weld to the bottom. I'm going to use panel bond adhesive. And why that is because that will also, it'll seal like seam sealer does here, but it'll also, anytime you weld, that's where your rust is going to start. Even if you weld through prime and all that, it's going to burn that away. So all that water is going to come down here, and it's going to want to sit in between this gap. Well, if I've got this sealed up like that, to where there's no, it's basically solid, there's nowhere for the water to seep between the seams, basically. So there's that. And like I said, I know this from experience. It just, taking cars apart and seeing where they tend to rust, it's always going to be around the welds. If you don't protect the back sides of the welds, you're asking for trouble. So always, always, always make sure you come back in and dress your welds. Even after I do all of these, I'll come back in and I'll make sure that I dress those and then seal them. A lot of times I'll seam seal the seam if I can. Like this seam here, little seam right there. Can run a bead of seam sealer over that just for a little bit of extra protection. Doesn't need it, but it's just, yeah, seam sealer's not that expensive, so just a little extra protection. All right, so I'm gonna put this on now. I'll bring you back. Okay, so this area right here is extremely important that you get this right. Okay, so make sure that this right here is lining up with that actual edge, and that's about 3/4 of an inch or so from that peak to that peak. So when I cut that down the middle and actually slide it in, because it's holding it back right there, it'll actually close the gap. So I'll probably have to go back down the middle of it again with the air saw and trim that up till I have a good gap to weld to. But you can see right here, I'll cut all the way across here, and then right down the center of that, take me a piece of tape, go down the center of that and follow that tape line all the way down, and it'll cut. You can see that. That's my area. It'll cut right down the center of that, and then that will drop into it. I'll probably have to trim it a little bit, but it'll drop into place, and then I'll be able to slide this in a little farther to where it'll actually come up to here. But for now, I've just got these two self-tapping screws in there just to hold that in place, because like I said, this area right here, you don't get that right, it's going to look screwed up because you've got a door body line that's going to follow that. Sorry about the compressor. But anyway, yeah, you want these to be the same size, basically. And that way when you look down the side of it, it looks relatively consistent. Otherwise, you're going to have either a giant gap or too small a gap, and you're going to be able to tell. It's going to look messed up. So I'm getting ready to take my sawzall, air saw, and start cutting. I'm going to, like I said, take a piece of tape, run it down the middle of that, and I'll bring you back. All right, so here's what you're gonna have. You're gonna have this piece right here that'll fall away. Okay. And then you're gonna have a piece inside just like this that'll fall away. And this will be butted basically with a fairly perfect line. Take this tape off and probably tear it on pieces. Yep. I'll tear that off there. But you can see, basically that's, and I'll have to open that back up because that's come in a little bit. So I'll open up again enough to where there's a good, because it gets basically too tight. You don't want it too tight because that'll make it warp as well. But then under here, we've got that piece that came through. So we got to pull that out, get it popped out of there. Also, one thing up here, this little guy, there's a little, it's like a sound deal where they put some foam in here. You got to make sure when you're cutting, you may be cutting deep here, sorry, but then you got to lay that saw back at an angle, like more like that to cut through. Sorry, more like that, because you're gonna hit that. If you don't cut it in half, you don't want to do that. So just this area right here, from here to the end, that little plate's in there. I don't know if you guys saw that earlier when I had it off, but I'll pull this back off. All right, now I'm going to take this panel off, and you can see that's about the gap you want, about the size of a saw blade. And so I'll take this back off and I'll prep under here bare metal, and under here bare metal, and then obviously out here bare metal as well down that seam, because you don't want to weld the paint or under any kind of anything, because it'll contaminate your weld. You want these to be beautiful little perfect little dots of weld, not you know, something that's got a bunch of holes pitted in it and just terrible, it's gonna leak, you know. So but yeah, that right there is what I'm doing. Don't know if it's what you want to do, but they give you a little more, so if you actually wanted to go up here, you could. But again, when you look down this panel, unless you're going to body work it, anytime you heat metal, anytime you heat metal, it's going to cave in a bit. It's going to warp. So when I go down through here, I'll put probably a dot about every inch or inch and a half or so, and then come back and do that in between those, and just do it real slow, blowing it to cool it with air, and just a little bit at a time, so we get as least warpage as possible in this channel. But at the very worst, if it warps and pulls in just a little bit, all I have to do is put a little bit of filler just in this area. So you don't have filler all over the whole panel or whatever, it's just this area. You can block that down, seal it up, and go on with your day. So, all right, there's that. So show the inside. That sits up in there like it's supposed to. All the way down. So yeah, well, I'm coming back in and cleaning this little area up and this little area right here up. That way I don't get any of this EDP or primer messing with my welds. This little piece is what I was talking about. So got that ground, that underneath there, you can see that. Yeah, ground that back. And this side all the way down. This side all the way down. And so now I'm ready to put it back on for final and weld it up. So that's what we're gonna do. Now, I've got my 2 screw spots where I can put it back in and lock it down, clamp everything up where it needs to be. And like I said here, I'm going to, at the bottom, I'm going to panel bond adhesive this. So I'll grind all this back to metal, grind that back to metal, panel bond all this, and then squish that in there, lock it down with these clamping pliers, and that'll take care of that. All right, there's that. It's ready to weld up. These little guys are cool, but they hold it just a little bit open, a little bit bigger than I would like. Now when you weld it, it's actually going to shrink a little bit, so it's going to pull it in, but I still am going to kind of squeeze that up a little tighter, not like that probably, and then as I get closer, pull these out. But that's a good start. Keeps it nice and once I get that pushed in, it'll be nice and flush. Yeah, that's got to come in a little bit more. I'll loosen that, press it in, and tighten that up. But yeah. So we'll seam that up. Plug these up. Plug these up. Make sure you get your holes right, because there are holes. They have to line up. You can see I've got weld through, and the ones that are going to get welded, and obviously the ones that are coming all the way through. Leave those alone, don't weld them up, because then your flares or whatever you're going to put on there will not fit. So, all right, that's it. I'm going to get to welding this thing. All right, so I got it tacked in, and you can see here, that'll focus nice and flat. Oh, well, that's focusing, but that's what I'm after. Down here, it's a little bit, touching a little bit, you can see that? So I'll have to just tap that down or press this out a little bit, get it leveled up. And I can also planish these tacks out. Now you don't want to do that a whole lot on with MIG, because MIG's harder than TIG and it doesn't like it as much. It will planish a little bit, but you don't want, like I said, you don't have to do a whole lot because it'll start cracking. So now there you go. I just ground the heads off of them so I could actually planish down, up and down, to make sure this gets exactly where it needs to be, as close as possible anyway. And then I'll just come in and tack in between these, and then once I get them pretty close, I'll just do about 3 tacks. Just buzz, 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 and then stop. Buzz, 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 stop, cool. Or, you know, even jump around a little bit. Come down here and do a buzz, 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 but then come back and grind it all down and seam seal the back of it, basically, so that those welds are covered and happy. I think I might have epoxy primed and then seam sealed. I'm pretty sure that's what I did on the other side. I don't know where my light went. I could show you the inside of that side, show what I did there. Of course it's not where it needs to be when I need it. See that? You might be able to see the seam sealer up in there, but from here to there, seam sealed. So took care of that. And of course you can see there. So gotta just fill those little spaces in and we'll be done. Okay, you can see I got that all tacked in. Went ahead and panel bond adhesive that. You can see the clamps underneath there. Went ahead and welded this down, plug welded just one of them, and then come around here to the front, fitted it up tight. Hang with me. Fitted it up tight, and went ahead and hit that one. And so now what I was going to say is I'm coming down, I'm taking this hammer here, and tapping in on these to get them flat, to get them as flat as possible. You definitely don't want to hit this edge. And as I push this down, it's trying to bring, you can see that. Alright, so as I push this in and tap this down, it's trying to raise this up, okay? So what I'm going to probably have to do is cut just a little V channel right here and be able to go ahead and smash that down and then smash this down. So I'll probably do that real quick because this is raised up just a little bit too tall. So let's see, I'm going to find the best area to do that. Take a little saw here. Let's see, if I smash that, probably right in here, it'll probably work pretty good. Now as I push that in, hammer this down. You can stay off this edge, you'll bend it all up. Like that. Also, I'm kind of hammering forward. Beat that down with a hammer, it's going to sink it in, it's going to look all ripply and kind of not very good. So try to keep it as smooth as possible. Like that. Then we come back in here and go ahead and plug weld those up. basically I'm just blowing air up in there, not necessarily to cool it, but to keep any kind of whatever's back there that's going to catch on fire, keep it from catching on fire basically. So I just blow it out with my air. So you can use it obviously to cool the welds, but that's not really necessary on these plug welds. Up here, a little more, yeah. This, not so much. But yeah, I always keep air handy so I can stick it up inside whatever I'm welding the back side and blow on it, because if you've got a coating in there, it's going to burn. So, and this is another good area where you can come in. Well, you come in from the inside, and you can also come in up from this side and take your wand and shoot up in there with your internal frame coating and coat the back sides of these welds, or epoxy, or whatever you like, that you could, that way you're protecting the back sides of your welds. Then you come in there with a little scope camera and make sure that everything is taken care of if you're that bent on making sure it's correct. I also, you probably see me scratching off the weld through in the center of the weld. 3M says to do that. 3M knows a hell of a lot more than I do, so I just listen to what they say, because that's what they do. When they tell me to do something different, I'll probably do that. And if you see me tacking this like this, if I'm squeezing this in, I'll run like a little, just that, okay? Now I don't have to hold it in because I got a little tack in there. Now I can just go back and circle that whole thing. But if you try to hold this with one hand and try to circle with the other, and if you don't have a really, if you're not, you know, hand-eye coordinated that well or whatever, you're gonna make a mess. It's gonna pop and spatter. You're not gonna have a consistent weld. All right, that was one that I put a hole in to hold it down. So that's why you saw the wire go through that hole. And I've got a little void area right there that I need to hit. Sometimes you don't always get, just come back in and spot it. So right there, take care of it. Hopefully you're able to see that what I'm doing now. Can't see how far down you can see. But you guys know how to plug weld. It's already in there pretty good, so I don't really need to push it in. Alright, I'll keep doing that and seam that in, do these, and it'll be done. That'll be it. So, thanks for watching. If you got any questions, just post them down in the comments. Alright, to give you a little idea, hopefully I don't move the camera around, how I do this. I got most of it done. But yeah, just 3 tacks at a time is about as much as you want to go. You can see, yeah, there's no warpage or anything in this panel, but if you get greedy, it will start pulling this in, even though you're on this. You've got 2 strong points on each side, and that's why I do this. Because if you went down the center of this, or the center of this, it's going to tend to want to pull it in more. Whereas you've got something resisting that in the on that crease. So yeah, I'll just pick a spot. Let's do another spot. Got greedy on that one, went 4. Alright, let that cool. Take some air. Kind of lightly blow it. I'm not trying to cool it too fast. A little bit. When I get all these done and it's all sealed up, seamed up, I'll come back, grind this down flat, then I'll take a red light behind the panel and come back through and make sure there's no holes at all. Anything I missed, there is, then I catch that, grind it down, go back with the light, make sure there's nothing I missed. There's no holes, there's no nothing. It's solid, and you can see from the inside, these little beads will just be very consistent inside the panel. And I'll bring you back and show you that when I get to that point and we get her ground down. See ya. All right, so we got all these buttoned up. A little V groove I put in there, welded that back up. We'll grind it down, it'll disappear. Got that seamed all the way down. Got to grind that off and finish it up. Let's see if you can see in there. Yep, all little beads back there. Try to make sure they're all consistent, no gaps. See a gap, grind it down, re-weld it, and then you won't have any problems. Like I said, get a red light behind this and you can see any pinholes or anything that you might have missed. So there's that. Here's these. Go ahead and got these. You can see these are tiny, the size of my fingernail. 5/16 hole, just a little tiny. Work perfect. All right, there it is. It's almost finished. I ground most of this stuff down. Needs to be cleaned up just a little bit. As you can see, turned out pretty decent. This here turned out good. See there how flat it is. Turned out a little bit of light through it maybe, but perfect for just a little skim coat of filler. Make it perfect. So yeah, there's that. And all these seamed in back here. I got a little spot here I gotta hit. There's a couple of little holes that I found. I don't know if you'll be able to see them in here or not. Yeah, see there? You got that one and that one, and then there's one back here, I think. Anyway, so yeah, you can find them, and then, oh, maybe it was up there. So yeah, I got 3 of them. Go back over, just hit it with the dot and grind that down, and done deal. All this is done, rebuilt. I don't know if you guys saw that. I rebuilt that whole deal too, the whole panel, floor, drop offs, everything. So yeah, there you go. That's it. Thanks for watching.